I got on Instagram yesterday and saw that a bunch of people were freaking out about this fursuit. I say freaking out because this is how many comments a Lemonbrat fursuit usually gets. Yeah. So what has folks stirred up? They think this fursuit doesn't look like a kangaroo. They might be right, they're wrong, but there's a bigger problem here. Every comment is awful. Howdy folks, I'm Reagan here for Corgilope, and I'd like to talk about critique and how we can all do it better. The word critique gets thrown around often, but rarely deconstructed. I'd like to talk about some rules for critique. I say rules, not guidelines, because none of this is negotiable. If you want to give critique, actual constructive critique, you need to follow these rules. Our first two rules aren't even about the art. If you want to give good critique, you need to know the purpose of critique, to encourage an artist, and you need to ask permission to give the critique. If you critique an artist, and they leave the conversation feeling discouraged, like their art isn't even worth sharing, you failed. If they no longer want to create, it doesn't matter what tips you gave them, they won't use them. A great way of discouraging someone is to blindset them with all of their flaws. Ask an artist if they want critique, and be willing to accept no as an answer. Here's a comment from that Instagram post. I'd like to start with this one because it's not the worst. They try to blunt their critique by saying every single artist and fursuit maker has their struggles, and certain species are extremely difficult to make and sculpt, which is true, and a great way of encouraging an artist to continue their work. They even point out that saying a piece of art is bad isn't constructive. However, they go on to make a list of flaws that aren't flaws at all. Kangaroos can have very masculine faces, and noses that are very prominent. But there was something subtle in that comment that sticks out like a sore thumb in this next one. The comment reads, all I'm saying is if I paid thousands of dollars to get a fursuit of my kangaroo and instead got this, I don't think I would still be grateful of anything near it. There's literally like spending $2,000 on a gaming computer and then getting a $300 laptop. If I was the customer, I would be really upset. There's a difference between having a few small errors on a suit and not even having a suit look accurate at all. They sent in a kangaroo and they got a dog. That's a ripoff. Is it a ripoff? Did this person ask for one thing and get another? This person puts themselves in the place of the customer and assumes they would be devastated by this suit. But do they know what the customer asked for? I don't think they do. But I do, because I looked it up. I got on Google and I found a picture of the character this fursuit is based on. Here it is. And here's the suit again. When we want to critique a work, it's important that we know the goals, parameters, and level of completion of the project. This fursuit is done, so we can ignore that last one, but the other two are so important, and no one, not a single person in the comments, bothered to determine the goal of the project before calling it a failure. Here's another comment. Imagine being the person that paid a bunch of money for a kangaroo and got a dog. Yeah, imagine that. Imagine paying for this and getting this. Imagine getting a fursuit that perfectly blends your character in with your favorite fursuit maker's style. That would be awful. So awful. So awful that hundreds of people would say, wow, this guy must be devastated. He got ripped off. If I were him, I'd ask for a refund because his fursuit looks exactly like his character. How disappointing. Where's the pouch? Yes, where's the pouch? Where's the pouch on this cis male anthro kangaroo? Where is his pouch? How is he going to hold all his babies? The final rules of good critique. Learn how to make a focused, precise critique sandwich and critique the art, not the artist. This is a sandwich. Not sure why it has so much lettuce, but it's a sandwich. And that's what we want to make when critiquing an artist who has accepted our help. Before making your critique, find your bread, or areas of strength. What did the artist do right? What makes them unique? What is something they should focus on in the future because they're so good? If you can't find at least two of these things in an artist's work, don't offer to critique them. But you can't find value in them. And your job as a critiquer is to encourage an artist to grow. Next, put in a lot of lettuce or things to improve. Be kind and clear. Identify the problem. Lay out ways it is a flaw. Even offer ways to fix the issue. Your critique is an action plan for the artist. Make it clear. Even if they were well researched, they weren't. All of the comments in that Lemonbrat Instagram post were just lettuce or a tomato. When you only offer an artist things they've done wrong, it could be hard to find a direction to proceed, a reason to keep creating. And if you extinguish an artist's desire, you have failed. That is so important. Your job is to encourage an artist. If you don't encourage them, if they stop, you have failed. Let's look at this comment. Is it a critique sandwich? The beginning and end are a little positive, but they don't actually tell the artist what they've done well. We're going to ignore the critique since we've established this fursuit looks like the character. But what does it offer Lemonbrat? Say something nice about the shaving, the eyes, the fur choice, anything. Don't be vague. Be pointed. I know it says kangaroo, but it looks like a dog. I'm not trying to, insult the company or anything. Well, that's good. I'm glad you're not trying to insult anyone. But they could have tried a bit harder to make it look right. I'm starting to feel bad for the commissioners. You know what? So am I, and that's why I made this video. Fursuits are pieces of wearable art that folks save and scrap for. Commissioners fight for a slot from their favorite makers, and then they wait, and then their dream comes home. A fluffy version of ourselves. Idealized, perfect, to us, in every way. A new skin, a version of ourselves that we can call beautiful. But instead of celebrating that joy together, we have comment sections where people have prioritized their desire to cut an artist down. It's not about facts or improvement because not a single one of those people looked for a reference sheet. It's about climbing the backs of other artists for a short rush. It's about a collective dunking instead of a collective celebration of what makes us unique. And when I think about it like that, maybe it's not about critique at all.